Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for joining me for today's video. We are going to continue the session on sampling or samples, where we're going to focus now on bias, randomization, and the type of bias that they are. So prior to moving to bias and randomization, there are three main ideas of sampling. The three main ideas are sample size, bias, and randomization. So let's move further into this. Okay, here I have a concept map for you where I outlined everything that we're going to be discussing. So bias here is determined by the failure in the system, where the sample mean or population can either be overestimated or underestimated. Based on our standards, we have voluntary bias, response bias, undercoverage bias, and non-response bias. There are other types of biases that they pay attention to, but these four will be my main focus for today. So voluntary bias is the most invalid bias that there is, because these persons volunteer to respond based on their opinion. So they want their points to be get across and not what is factual. So we try to eliminate these kind of persons from our samples. Sometimes we cannot do without them because it's with them. We can make comparison and draw better conclusions, but it's always best to identify these people and know what they're about. Response bias. These biases are easily influenced by the wording of questions by the researcher. So this response bias here, some people call it the researcher's bias because the researchers are the persons who create the questions. And sometimes they are biased themselves because they want their data to be skewed in a particular direction, and that's not a true sample. All right? And so through wording of questions, these questions may be misleading and cause the participants to answer in a particular way. So again, researcher's bias, we try to eliminate these as much as we can. So most times we ask open-ended questions, so we give the respondents another chance to express themselves instead of yes, no, true, false questions. Undercoverage bias. As the word says, undercoverage, you're not being able to cover the entire population, or some of them just don't have a chance to respond. And so we say not everyone is being sampled, and this does not reflect a true representation of the population. Because some of these people in a particular area may be either in prison, they could be dead, they could be in the hospital, they could be at work, so they won't be able to be a part of that sample, even though they're a part of the population. All right, so the next one is a non-response bias. These are people who choose not to respond for specific reasons. And so who respond doesn't reflect the true or the entire population. And these are mainly used or mainly seen when you ask to do phone polls or internet polls or what do you call that thing? Answer the survey through the mail, or some researchers will give you some long surveys to answer through your mail and your email, and you choose not to respond to them because that's too long and time consuming. And sometimes these people are also unavailable due to work, sickness, and other reasons. So bias is everywhere. In our sampling, we try to eliminate these because these affect the outcome of our study. Randomization is our third idea, or idea. So randomization is the aim of the act against bias. So if you want to eliminate bias from your sample, we seek to randomize. When we randomize our sample, we ensure that everyone gives everyone in our sample the same treatment. And when we say the same treatment, we don't put males and females in one, or people who are black or people who are white in one group. We tend to randomize them. We mix them up, and so our population will be varied. Here, everyone has an equal chance of being selected. A good example I saw in a textbook is that when you're mixing a pot of soup, once you mix that soup and the soup is at the boiling point, then you add your seasoning in it. If you don't stir your soup around, only the bottom of your soup will have the seasoning. So if you keep tasting from the top of your soup, you will not really taste the true quality of the soup. So when you mix your soup around, the seasoning and everything mix around, so the top and the bottom will overlap each other, then you will have your season going throughout your soup. And so I really love the example, and I hope the example will be in your mind. So when you think about randomization, think about mixing, getting everything into it, and so everyone had the same treatment, or the treatment is dispersed to everyone, basically the same thing. So that's it for bias and randomization. I hope this video was useful for you, short, precise, and to the point. And I'll see you on my next video. Have a good